the heart and soul behind every business. Stories. Welcome to Business Story of the Week, hosted by me, Joshua Laurie. From setbacks to comebacks, from tragedies to triumphs, we inspire entrepreneurs through conversations that matter. Witness the magic that turns dreams into reality. Whether it's your career, business, or life, your success is always one story away. This is Business Story of the Week. And welcome back, folks. Welcome back to Business Story of the Week. I am your host, Joshua. And today's question is: how do you turn your darkest struggles with food into a journey of self love and empowerment? Well, our guest for today is the perfect guest to answer that question. We have the queen herself today, Queen Victoria Kleinsman. After spending over 20 years battling eating disorders and being petrified of weight gain, Victoria emphasizes with the challenges of anorexia, bulimia, and binge eating. Now living in a food freedom and self love, she coaches women on their journey to complete recovery from eating disorders through her signature Real Recovery Roadmap approach. Victoria is a trusted body image authority for the independent newspaper and LBC radio. Victoria is on a mission to lead millions back home to self love and a positive relationship with food and their bodies through coaching and her top rated podcast, The Body Love Binge. I love that name, by the way. And today, the Queen joins us. Victoria, thank you so much for being on the show. How are you doing?
Wow, what an introduction, Joshua. Thank you for having me.
I'm quite excited. I mean, you are quite of course, not many opportunities get to say that they get the queen herself as a guest on their podcast. So I am taking this, I will not take it for granted. Victoria, you have quite the career, or you have quite the journey, so to speak. There's been a lot of recovery and to eventually now becoming a coach for others struggling with eating disorders. Where did this all begin, Victoria? I understand that you spent 20 years battling, all of these disorders. What was it like? What was those battles that you faced constantly, and why do you think it took you a long time before you finally overcame it, or if you finally were victorious against it? What is the story of
I
Victoria?
like the way you've used my name in the victoriousness of it. So thank you for that. Yeah, so I'll keep the long story short, and then of course you
Please,
can ask me anything
of
about any
course.
part of the story. For
Hmm.
me, it started when I started dieting from the age of 9 years old. So it wasn't something my parents put on me. It was something
Okay,
I copied my mum do because she would diet all the time. Um,
interesting.
Before I started dieting, I was a perfectionist. There was childhood trauma stuff, not necessarily trauma with a capital T, where you're locked in a room and beaten and all of that kind of stuff. But things like if I cried, my grandma would lock me outside until I stopped crying, then I could come back in. That was from the age of like 1 years old. So my
Whoa.
emotional needs weren't being met the way
Mm,
that little me needed them to be met. So
mm,
there's stuff that happened before the diet started. But I started
wow.
dieting at 9, and then it morphed into anorexia when I was 12, around 12 years old,
Wow.
because of the perfectionism, the all or nothing, the
Wow.
overachievement. If you diet and you're the best at it, of course you eat less and less. And then the anorexia started, and I was
Mm.
in the anorexia for about, I
Oh,
was about 17, 18 years old. It was
wow. Okay.
a battle, and it, as you can imagine, it's very harsh on the family as well. It's not just an illness that you kind of are experiencing yourself. It has a massive effect
Yeah.
on the family as well.
Yes.
Yeah.
I mean, it started very early as well for you, which is to me is like mind blowing, and that's it makes more sense why the battle was so long because having I feel like that relationship starts very early when it comes to food, like what how you treat food, how you approach food, and how you approach consumption. many of that again, many of our programming is set around age, 6 to 8, 9 years old, and those things stay with you for the rest of your lives. And it's just kind of mind-blowing to me how early this battle started for you as a child, and how it began manifesting earlier in your teenage life as well. What was the pivotal moment, what was the turning point for you where you started saying like, wow, I need to do something about this? But also, how was the education back then? Did you know it was particularly a eating disorder?
Well, I remember my mum taking me to the doctors, and then they handed
Hmm.
us a leaflet, and it had anorexia nervosa like on the front of the leaflet. And I was in denial. I was like, "No, that I haven't got that. I'm in control of this. I can eat when I want." And of course, I couldn't because the fear was so petrifying. I would
Wow.
rather have someone held a gun to my head than eat food. Well, then actually, I had counseling, I had therapy. None of it helped because I didn't understand, first of all, what was going on with me, because
Mhm.
none of them delved into my childhood. None of them really asked me the why it started. It was the focusing on the behaviors and the treatment, which now I don't do that with my clients. We focus on the behavior and the root cause, because if we're only
Mhm.
focusing on behaviors, nothing will change, because there's a reason why the eating disorder was created in the first place. But for
Mhm.
me, the anorexia then morphed into binge eating and bulimia until I was
Wow.
30 years old. So, yes,
Whoa.
from a teenager, I weight restored so I wasn't at a dangerous weight of dying from malnutrition. But the
Okay.
anorexia just morphed into bulimia. So I would
Oh my.
binge, starve, purge for the next, what, however many years until I was 30 years old.
My
That's
goodness.
when I chose recovery, because I was at rock bottom. I
Hmm.
couldn't do it anymore. I was just broken, and I'm a fighter, so I've been taught to just get on with it. I'm very independent. I can do it myself. I don't need any help. That,
Hmm.
helping is weakness, that kind of limiting narrative. But when I
Hmm.
was at rock bottom and I just couldn't do it anymore, that's when I
Yes.
reached out for help, and I actually got a coach, which is why I became a coach, not a therapist, although I'm certified in many different modalities, including different types of therapists. Coaching was really powerful for me, and that's when my journey began at 30 years old.
Wow, that is so that what a story and what a journey that you've had to go through. And I'm sorry that it was such a struggle. And of course, there's also still a stigma around food eating disorders. Like people might not approach it the same way as other disorders. People might not see it as the same level of seriousness or severity. But it's a difficult battle. It's a difficult disorder to overcome. Who was the person? Who was the coach? Was there one particular person that stands out to you where your journey began, and he or she was the one who truly started you on the path?
Yes, well, I'm smiling so much because there was a person before the coach that had a big influence on me, and that
Okay.
was my now husband. So I met
Wow.
my now husband in Egypt on holiday. He's
Wow.
Dutch, and I live in the Netherlands now with him. And I met
Wow.
him. We knew each other for 3 months, and then I moved over from England to be living in the Netherlands.
Wow.
And then I couldn't hide my eating disorder anymore because I was living with this person.
Yes, of course.
He saw all of my daily habits. And then
Mhm.
instead of asking me or forcing me, like most people would try and force me to eat or tell me I was eating too much or I wasn't eating enough, he would
Mhm.
ask me questions because he's a coach himself. So it's all about the powerful questions. So
Mhm.
he would say things like, "Don't you want to take care of yourself and nourish your
Right.
body?" And then I was like, I've never even thought about doing that, because my entire life, my biggest goal was to lose weight and to stay as thin as possible, because that meant love, validation, connection, approval, meant that I was good enough, because as a child, I
Yes.
didn't feel good enough. So,
Mhm.
him asking me those questions, then I hit rock bottom. I was listening to a podcast at the time. I
Wow.
don't think she does the podcast anymore. This was like, how old am I now? 37. This was 7 years ago. She was
Mhm.
called Martina Robinson. She was an American intuitive eating coach, but she had a lot of background in spirituality. I didn't
Wow.
even know what spirituality meant at that point, but I was
Mm.
just drawn to her. I
Wow.
think it was the compassion and the love that she had for her listeners and for herself. She would talk
Of
very
course.
highly and very loving of herself, and I wanted what she had.
Oh.
So my
Hmm.
journey began, and then I've had many different coaches. I still have coaches just for other things, business and life more so
Of
now because
course.
I'm completely recovered. But I am a fan of coaching. I'm a coach. My husband is a coach. We always have a coach. It's life changing if you allow the
I
coach
love it.
to support you. That is.
I love that. I love it. And who coaches the coach, right? That is the thing. And and in your case, it for you, it's all started, of course, with the love of your life today, and allowing you self validation, room for self validation, like room for more than that, like what you always use as well is self love. It all begins with accepting yourself, accepting who you are. You are enough, of course, and where all these or disorders are rooted in is because of fear of not being enough, of not being accepted, right? And it all starts inside you. It all starts internally. And I love that you found the right people. It's always that support around you, like the helpers that are around you. And now you're preaching and spreading the same message, coaching others as well on their struggles and finding freedom from eating disorders. I understand this is now you have come to a point you're teaching your signature approach called the Real Recovery Roadmap, which has helped many women find again their freedom from eating disorders. Can you explain to us what this approach entails? What is the roadmap to it, and what makes it so unique and effective?
Absolutely. So, as I touched on before, when I was in anorexia recovery as a teenager, a lot of professionals, and unfortunately a lot of professionals still today, only tend to focus on the behavior, that
Right.
eat more food, that don't eat this, that eat that, the behavioral aspect of recovery. But what
Hmm.
happens when we do that is, let's say someone's in anorexia recovery, they gain the weight, but they still have an eating disorder up here and in their heart and in their emotional
Right.
and nervous system. So my real recovery roadmap, it consists of 5 pillars, and this
Hmm.
there's not a particular order where, okay, right, first we do this, then we do that. It's a holistic way of me supporting someone to real recovery, because I fully
Hmm.
believe that the only way to truly heal from any eating disorder and live in food freedom and body love without worrying about relapsing and having to live with it is to take this holistic approach using these 5 pillars. And the
Hmm.
pillars are, number one is to go back in your childhood and release the trauma, understand what
Wow.
happened,
Yes. Yes.
release all of that emotional baggage, and that,
Hmm.
trauma is stored in the physical cells of the body, not only the mind. So we work on
Yes.
that. To encompass that, it's we do a lot of inner child healing work, because true
Hmm.
healing is being the person you needed when you were a child, when you were
Yes.
alone in your big emotions, when you were
Yes. That's
useless
it.
being met, to be that for yourself.
Yes.
The
That
third
is
pillar
true.
is to heal your relationship with food, of course. So that is a behavioral aspect of it, which is a part of it. The fourth
Hmm.
pillar is body image. In society today, unfortunately, there's a lot around fat is bad, thin is good. It's everywhere, especially
Hmm.
now these new fat loss drugs have come into the market. It's making it, we were getting somewhere with body positivity, but now it's kind of getting worse again. And the last pillar is self love, which is linked to self
Wow.
worth. So it's all of those things
Wow.
in each individual's experience, depending on what they've been through and where they're at. And that's what gets them to real recovery, not
I love
just
that.
quasi or quasi, however you pronounce it, recovery, where you're kind of almost recovered, but not quite. Because why would you 90% recover when you can 100% recover?
There you go. Exactly. Why not? I love how you address the deeper aspects of it. You address the deeper internal problems of what causes eating disorders in the first place. And I love the pillars. Very simple. Heal your inner trauma, your inner child. Body image positivity is so important today. It's more crucial now than ever, I believe. And of course, self love. I love that. I think that's my favorite pillar. It's very important for all our audience and listeners today. Not necessarily just with just with eating disorders or any struggles that you're going through. It applies, right? You have to heal what trauma you went through. Be positive about yourself and learn your self love and your self worth. I love that.
Definitely. And also in terms of business, because the best way to love yourself is to be yourself.
Mm-hmm.
And that's in
Mm-hmm.
business too. So when it can be with anything, with life, with people, in relationships, in business, if we're
Yes.
not being our true selves,
Right.
people, whether they're aware of that or not, our potential audience, they
Mm-hmm.
feel an incongruency with our authenticity of who we are. So
Yes.
the
Yes.
first step is to know who we are, is to
Mm-hmm.
get to know ourselves and then to learn how
Wow.
to express who we are and
Mm-hmm.
then to be ourselves in business, in relationships, with ourselves. Self-love is everything actually.
Yeah, it is. It is. Self love is everything because it all starts there. Everything flows from that. I feel truly if you want to succeed in life, is you must love yourself first so you can love others fully. So you can put love into the things that you do. And I feel all that love right now, Victoria. I feel it in the love that you do, the work and the message that you are spreading, the message that you are teaching today. But I imagine it hasn't all been rainbows and butterflies, right? There must have been challenges along the way. What have been some of the most significant challenges and stories that you've faced in the journey to recovery, coaching others? Is there a particular story that stands out, and how did you help them overcome that?
In particular, in my business and growing that, or in my story, or in a client story, just so I can
Oh,
answer
that's
that.
interesting. I love that. I'd love to have both. I'm getting greedy here.
Yeah.
First off, um, overcoming challenges as you were growing the business right now as it is today to finding that success, while also finding that balance between, like showing up for the clients, and that's the challenges that they are facing as well. And is there a particular story that stands out?
Yes, okay, so growing my business, we'll start there.
Mm-hmm.
I started, not so ironically, by creating my own podcast because that was how I found my first coach, by listening to her podcast. So I
Mm.
started, well, I became certified as a coach, I became
Wow.
certified as a nutritionist, I started training and buying courses and programs, etc. But until I waited, I didn't wait until I was quote unquote perfect, which isn't even a real thing. There's no such thing
Of
as
course.
perfection. I started. So I started my podcast and I just spoke. And people say, oh, it's challenging to start a podcast. Honestly, you just download an app and you speak into your phone. It's that simple to start with. And the
That's it.
reason that perhaps I wasn't blocking myself with fear and I need to get the microphone and I need to get this and I need to know what I'm doing is because I had so much passion to help
Mm.
other people who were stuck where I was stuck for so many
Yes.
years. My
Yes.
passion took over and I just started to record. And then that grew very slowly. So there would be
Mm-hmm.
one person listening, and that would be me. And then there would be
Mm.
five people. That would be me, my mum, my partner, my sister, my friend.
Mm-hmm.
And just showing up consistently every
That's it.
single week
Wow.
from my passion to serve, not with trying to get clients in, not with trying to make money. So I
Yes.
guess the challenge here was you hear about these overnight success stories when you start to go into the business space. There's no such thing, in my opinion, as overnight success.
Mm-hmm.
Someone might be quote unquote famous overnight, but they've
Of
done
course.
the background work on
Yes.
themselves, on
Mm-hmm.
their business. So it's being told no multiple times, but you keep going anyway because you want to help people. It's
Mm-hmm.
showing up every week and recording a podcast, whether one person listens or 100 people listen.
Mm-hmm.
It's consistency, and that can be a struggle if some people are like I used to be, really connected with the expectation of an outcome. So I would
Right.
question myself, why am I doing this? And it was easy. The answer always came to me. It was because I have a passion to serve.
Mm-hmm.
And so one of my mantras was that I used throughout my business to myself was success is inevitable if I love what I do. So
Wow.
I just kept doing what I loved and learning
Wow.
business savvy things along the way, tracking my numbers, all of the stuff, but not taking it too seriously.
Mm-hmm.
But the challenge was to let go of the expectation of, right, I now have a podcast, I should have this many clients,
Yes.
or I've
Yes.
put a
Yes.
post on Instagram, therefore people should be queuing up to work
I
with
love
me.
that.
But that comes because now I'm at
Mm-hmm.
multiple six figures, like monthly,
Mm-hmm.
doing what I love.
I love
Sometimes I
that.
have to pinch myself, like, I I've just been myself and shared
Hmm.
from my heart from a place of service, and then
Hmm.
this is what happens. I've seen it time and time again with people I've coached as well. Act
Hmm.
from passion, and then everything comes from there.
I love that. Act from passion, and everything comes from there. And uh, I, as always, again, I love how you do the deep work. You always focus on the deeper aspects of things, and I love that insight because I'm pretty sure it's an insight that our audience and listeners can take value from in whatever journey they are undertaking today. And it goes hand in hand, right? Because of your passion of helping clients, helping others, have the best life possible, it allowed you the avenue to create, more opportunities, to help others even more. And I love how it just puts together your mission and your efforts. And again, like, no one's overnight, and you have put in the work. Absolutely. You are, of course, evident in the being a trusted body image authority for the independent and LBC radio. How do you feel, what did that feel like, first of all, and how do you feel like it changed when you were, you've become an authority recognized by these big media platforms? What was it like before and after that, and how do you feel like it changed your message for self-love and recovery?
It was quite surreal when because they reached out to me. None of this was paid media. None of this was me approaching these companies. They
Hmm.
reached out to
Hmm.
me. So it was very
Wow.
surreal. And at first I was like, is this a real email? Like, I had to check with my husband, like, is this a spam email? Like, pretending to be the independent
Yes,
newspaper or
yes.
LBC radio. Turns out they were both legit, of course, because I've been on multiple
Wow.
times in each ones. And I sat for a moment and I always put my hand on my heart and I practiced receiving, because
Hmm.
so many of us don't know how. We say we want all these things in life. We want the
Hmm.
money, we want to serve, we want this, we want that. If we don't know how to receive it because we don't have the
Yes.
capacity to receive, because we don't feel worthy of it at a deep level, we're going to block it from
Hmm.
ourselves. So
Hmm.
I always take a moment to receive, like, what's come to me. And
Hmm.
then, because I love the way I talk to myself now, I've trained myself to be my biggest cheerleader. I would say
Yes.
you have got this. Like, they've come to you for a reason. This is your chance to share your message and to help
Hmm.
as many as possible. So honestly, a few nerves before, but it went on as on the radio. It's just like talking to a potential client or being interviewed on a podcast, because
Wow.
again, my focus is being of service and speaking to the person who is struggling in that moment, because that's what I
That's
care
it.
about. I don't
Hmm.
care about being seen as a person, in the media or whatever. People may look up to me that way. I want to
Hmm.
help as many as possible. So
Hmm.
after these experiences, I guess it just cemented and encouraged me to just keep going. Not that I needed any encouragement, to be honest, because again, like, passion just never runs out. It
Hmm.
was just, what word am I looking for? Acknowledgement, I guess, for what I'm doing here. And I want to be in front of bigger platforms and on bigger podcasts just so I can help more people.
That's it.
So
I love
nothing
that.
really changed, apart from people like to see it's trust, isn't it? If people see,
Yes.
oh, she's trusted by the independent newspaper and LBC radio, then
Beautiful.
I can then perhaps trust her, because everything is about trust. And if you don't know me yet, it might
Hmm.
be difficult for someone to trust. And I get that. So it's helped my business, the authority I have in the marketplace in my niche, I guess.
I love that. And of course, again, it goes back to the work that you put in. It wasn't an overnight thing. You put in the work, you put in the love, a lot of love, and it shows today in the way you talk about it, Victoria. There's it's been a long journey. Nothing easy comes, but you've worked through it. Like you said, you've always been independent. You've always want, like, do it yourself, and you just go get it done. I'd love to know how you're looking at the future. How are you looking forward as Queen Victoria Kleinsman and all your other queens as well? How are you seeing the Body Love Binge, of course, the podcast, and your recovery coaching? How are you seeing yourself in the future? And of course, are there any personal aspirations of Victoria Kleinsman?
Well, thank you for asking. And just want to clarify to the audience, the reason I call myself Queen, and Joshua is lovingly calling me Queen too, is because I share with my clients, with my podcast audience, YouTube audience, that they are all queens. I help men
Mhm.
too, and they're kings, but I primarily help women, so I use the pronoun like the queen. So I, of course, lead by example, because a
Mhm.
true leader leads by example. So
Mhm.
I'm obviously a queen as well, and then I encourage others to see themselves as queens. So you get up every morning, you adjust your crown, and you get on with the day, and then that shows up in your energy and how you interact with people,
I
etc.
love
So
that.
I just wanted to clarify that part first.
Of course. Well, thank you for clarifying that part for us, Victoria.
And so for me and my business, it's to basically continue doing what I'm doing. So I
Mhm.
love most of all to work with one-to-one clients. I'm almost at full capacity. I only take on 10 one-to-one clients at a time
Wow.
because the service I provide is so bespoke, is so supportive.
Mhm.
I won't go above that number because then I can become overwhelmed and there'll be too
Of
many
course.
people to support. So
Mhm.
one-to-one's the best way to work with me. It's higher ticket, of course, because you get what you pay for. You don't
Mhm.
just trade your time, my time for your money. It's
Mhm.
my lived experience, like from the age of 9 and before that up until this point. I spent
Mhm.
thousands, tens of thousands, and still do, of euros investing in myself with mentors, coaches, programs, certifications,
Mhm.
trainings. It's
Mhm.
all of that. And I
Mhm.
have so much love to give, as I'm sure you're feeling that now. There's nothing
Yes,
quite like it when someone is holding your hand, metaphorically
that is true.
speaking, on your journey step by step to where you want to get to. So I work one to one. I also have a group. And I guess my longer term plan is to get in front of more people and help more people. I mean, that's when the group comes in because I can only take 10 one to one clients, but I can take unlimited amount of people in a group
Mhm.
environment and support them through them watching me coach other people and the program I have. So it's to build my group platform to get myself out there as much as possible so people can hear the message that I've got to share, and just to continue loving and enjoying every day, because all we have is now anyway. We can live in the future, we can make plans, but we only have this moment now, and to be grateful and present is everything. So just to be present is my biggest goal, I would say.
I love that, Victoria. Thank you so much for that. I mean, it's again, the passion truly shines, and we hear the message. We hear you loud and clear, and it's the success that you found because of it, and you continuously live that message, and I'm glad that you got to share with us today, Victoria. I'd love to give you the opportunity. Where can we connect with you? Where are you most active in? Where can we learn more about, of course, your top rated podcast, The Body Love Binge? Where can we stay connected with Victoria?
Instagram, I'm most active on. So my Instagram handle, I'm sure you'll post below, is at Victoria Kleinsman official. My original
Mhm.
one got hacked many years ago, so I had to have the
Oh,
word official at the end. So
oh
that's me on
no.
Instagram. I'm
Hmm.
active on there day to day.
Hmm.
Again, my podcast, of course, that you so beautifully shared. I share a lot in the podcast. Facebook, not as much as Instagram. So Instagram's a place where I'm at. And I also reply personally to every DM that I receive.
Wow,
Again, it's keeping my attention more on Instagram than trying to be everywhere when I can
of
just
course.
be 100% in one platform. So give me questions. I love to answer questions. So give me a shout and I'll be there on the other end with a voice note usually to connect with
Of
people.
course. And of course, the love is more genuine, is more compassionate because it's focused. It's, is you focus on just the right amount of people to give that same value back. And I love that. I think it's a fantastic, really lovely approach. Victoria, you have been great. I would love to invite you to my health show. I actually have another health show that I'm about to launch. It's still coming out, but I think that would be, a longer format one where we could talk a lot more deeper aspects of what you do and what you do with your clients and your group, of course, and your community and everything that you have built so far. I am just truly glad that you were able to share that with us today. Victoria, thank you for being on the show.
Thank you for having me. It's a pleasure. I hope I've helped someone today.
To all our audience and listeners out there, of course, if you or your friends, your family are struggling, the person to approach. Check out Queen Victoria Kleinsman and her community and what she does. And of course, thank you for listening to the episode. We will catch you on the next one. Bye bye.
All right, so here's the thing. We try to get a little bit better every day, but we can't do it without you. So if you like the video, make sure to like and subscribe below. And if you have any comments, just leave them in the space under.